Good morning. Thank you for coming to the Stockbridge Bowl Stewardship Committee meeting on June 25th. So I wanted to open the meeting and ask for a volunteer to take minutes and I know we're going to talk about the secretary, but for today, anyone want to volunteer for this? I know we've all done it many times.
Charlie's.
No, Charlie can't do it. He's done it too many
He's done it too many times. We don't want Charlie, but he does such a great job, I have to
You
say.
would love the job, but would anyone else be willing to, hopefully last time?
I did it a couple of weeks ago, I think, a couple of months.
Michael,
So did I. I'll do it, but all right.
thank you. Thank you, Michael. And we would like to approve the minutes that Charlie just handed us, the draft minutes.
So
Can I
moved.
say something about that?
Yeah.
Just so that everybody knows, John Ladici from Sewer and Water gave me a correction, which I incorporated into the Sewer and Water paragraph under the report. And the first paragraph, the first line of that paragraph. And if you'll just read it, it says, John Ladici noted that the hydrants had to be cleaned and flushed, and that the water and sewer pipes had been diverted off the bridge at Curtisville. So that was the correction that was made. I made an error in saying that. Otherwise, the minutes are just the same as I've distributed them to everybody.
Okay.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Michael,
Oh, I didn't read them, so I can't
so
comment.
abstain.
Yeah,
Okay, one
I'm
abstention.
sure they're fine.
So the next thing I wanted, just a few quick announcements that I'd written down was I wanted to say that the mosquito control program, at the town meeting, it will not continue. So I guess, how would you say it? Because I guess it's approved to not continue. And then our committee is now a commission, which gives us a budget, which gives us the ability to find a secretary or someone to help us with that bit of our work. So we want to thank Charlie and to Roxanne for their help with that and, and
So
their due
can I ask you a question
diligence.
about that?
You can,
Yeah, what's the next step in proceeding in order to get a secretary in place?
Well, I
don't-
think,
go ahead, Roxanne.
oh, sorry, I think we just need to put out a notice that we're looking for someone, so I'll talk to Michael Canales about that. And we'll make sure that we put that out. Unfortunately, Jennifer's plate is full, or we would ask Jennifer, I think. But we'll put that out on the town website and we may actually advertise for it.
So do we have to make a formal motion to do that? Or are we all set with just what you said, Roxanne?
I don't know that you have to vote on it. If you'd like to vote on it, we can, but certainly it's just a matter of filling a position, so.
Okay, so I'll be satisfied with that. I'll see how it
Yeah,
goes.
because I don't think, because it's what was the other thing? Roxanne, do you want to get us started? Because I know you wanted to talk about Jackson coming to conservation about the harvesting. Would you like to do that now or wait?
Oh, I can do that now if you want.
Because you're already on.
Can I just interrupt one more time? I'm not
course.
sure that
Sorry,
I heard, I'm sorry, Jamie. I'm not sure that I heard in the approval of the minutes that we specified that it was for Friday, June the 4th, 2021, the minutes that we were approving, just so that we have that on record. So I'm sorry if we already said that,
I
that's
think I
fine.
said from the
Yeah,
previous meeting,
okay,
so sorry. I didn't.
I'm sorry, Roxanne, please continue.
Not a problem. So if everyone is not aware, I think you all are aware, but on Tuesday, the Conservation Commission did approve the NOI as presented. So the next step is that the Conservation Commission has to give us an order of conditions. So they have to produce an order of conditions. Once they do that, then the next step is it goes into a 10-day appeal period in which DEP and NHESP can again proffer any additional conditions that they would like to place on that order of conditions. So that's where we sit right now. So just in a waiting kind of just waiting for this whole process to play out. In addition, I met yesterday with members of the SBA, and we discussed moving forward how they are looking at maybe moving one of their herbicide test areas. And to do that, they have to appeal to DEP and get the approval of DEP, so that that final order of conditions for the herbicide project may be altered. However, once we can start weed harvesting, hopefully we can, we will proceed with what the existing final order of conditions are in terms of those test plots and the control area. And if that changes, we will be notified immediately by the SBA, and then we will just alter our harvesting pattern. So I sent all of you the map, the current map of the weed harvesting. So you all have that, but that may be altered based on what happens with the test area for the herbicide test, just so you know. So that's where we stand right now with the NOI for weed harvesting. And we just have to hope for the best and keep our fingers crossed. I am prodding Sally Underwood Miller to, get the order of conditions out as soon as possible. And we're going to go from there. Also, Richard Seltzer yesterday indicated that they would be putting out buoys to mark those test areas and the control area, and that the buoys would, and if Gary Kleinerman is here, is he here?
No, he
No.
gave me his
Okay.
report. He had a doctor's appointment.
Okay, well,
What I
Richard
just heard.
indicated that he had a conversation with Gary and that Gary will be putting those buoys out. And when he does so, he will be marking the corners of those areas, including the 100-foot setback that we have to obey. So in our order of conditions for weed harvesting, we have to not only avoid those test areas, but we have to be 100 feet away. So my understanding was that when they put those buoys out, it will incorporate that additional 100 feet. In the meantime, we have a condition to use GPS on our harvesting. So Michael Canales is looking into getting a waterproof GPS device to use on the harvester so that we're recording exactly where we are actually doing the harvesting. And that's about it.
I have a silly question, Roxanne. Will the buoys for the test plots be a different color or the same color as the buoys already in the lake? Like, will we know visually, like, this is a test area?
Yes, the statement was made that I think Gary is going to paint them red, and it'll have, it'll say DEP test area or something to that effect. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question too. Roxanne, about that foresight response. I didn't see the area around the docks that were going to be harvested quantified, or did I miss that? Is that specified in there as a specific acreage amount, or not? I missed that. And secondly, with respect to the dock harvesting areas, will they be buoy marked?
No, there won't be buoys. Basically, going up the channel, the provision is to do a single pass into each one of those docks. So it's a single pass. And typically what they do is, if there is an open side of the dock, that's where they harvest. And Michael can probably address this because he's run the harvester before. But typically it's just one pass in and out of each dock in the channel. And yes, they did incorporate an acreage calculation that is in the aggregate total. It's not broken out though by dock,
No, it's like 7.9.
7.9 is the aggregate total.
That includes the dock area?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
so they have to go so many feet out from the shore and so much depth.
Yeah, the way
Right.
I read it, it seemed like the 7.9 was the original area, and then there was this undefined, according to at least the way the response was from NHESP, it looked like it was an undefined area in addition to the 7.9%. But that's good to know that it's 7.9%.
Yeah.
7.9 acres.
acres. And
Sorry.
it's like, I forgot the percentages in here that.
Yeah, no, the percentage is very low.
Yeah, the percentage I think is just less than 2% of the entire area of the lake.
Roxanne, this sounds to me really like some foreign country governing us. I'm going to say, I know it's very controversial, but I really think that we have to make an incredible present. Once this summer is over, I'm not sure that this engineering company is the correct company going forward, but I mean, I've been in sales for 28 years. I had a company, and we had to make visual presentations to our customers. People are people. And I'm not sure, I wasn't in any of these NHESP meetings concerning the harvester, but I've been at plenty of NHESP meetings for the dredging. And visuals of what we're up against, visuals of what we want to do, and to show them. And for 40 years, we have been using the harvester. It's almost, and without any repercussions to the lake. And I'm not sure what the arguments were with, so it's easy for me to be a backseat driver. But I really think once this summer is over, I think we should really make a visual presentation of what is needed to really help the people and the lake out going forward. Because taking the tests every summer for the herb to see if there's milfoil or whatever, we really lost this summer, regardless if we get it. The earliest we're going to get this thing, from what I understand, is August, beginning of August, maybe the last week in July. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking, it's such a limited time. This patient is almost going to be dead again before the medicine can be administered. And this engineering company, all of these things should have been done already in April or May, and we should have been on the lake. But that's, you've heard me say that to you before, but I just wanted to make it publicly stated in this committee that we should make a real visual presentation. And I have so many aerials and photos of the way it looks and the way it did look, and how little we actually harvested in the past without any issues, as Tom Coote will testify.
Right. Well, there's a number of things to address here. Number one, foresight dealing with this. Going forward, foresight is wonderful on bridge projects, et cetera. That's been our experience. We've had some communication issues this year with this whole process. However, and so, that's been discussed in terms of moving forward for this type of work. Would we continue to use foresight? That's already been discussed. However, I can tell you that we had communications with Miss Deanne Merrill back in February, and none of this in terms of these restrictions were ever mentioned at that time. They only came in with their comments one day before the deadline for them to respond, by the way. And then there was a lot of communication with NHESP trying to have a conversation prior to the Conservation Commission meeting, which was not responded to for several days. And so Jackson eventually, the day before Conservation Commission meeting happened, he was able to talk to her, and it was at the very end of the day. So it's not as though this hasn't been ongoing. A part of the problem is just the responsiveness of NHESP, or maybe their lack of communication of what their real concerns are early on, in which case we would have had lots of time to really discuss this with them. And the other aspect of this is almost an unwillingness for DEP. That was flat out. We asked for, a meeting with DEP. They declined. NHESP, as I said, very last minute, coming in with a lot of restrictions and not having the opportunity or the time, because of when they're responding, to actually be able to engage in some meaningful conversations or meetings. So it's complex, and We just have to move past this. So what we will do is we'll go through the process. We'll try to get the order of conditions, Jamie. Maybe you can help in that regard.
I thought we had signed, I know, don't we have to wait the 10 days for the
No.
reply?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
First, the order of conditions has to be issued. So Sally's working on that, and she told me typically it would be like by your next meeting.
Mhm.
However, if she could get it done and she could get signatures, it would be sooner than that.
Okay,
So we're hoping for that. And
right.
then the 10-day clock starts on this appeal period where NHESP and DEP can put on further conditions. At that point, we then have 21 days to appeal that if it comes in and it's just unreasonable in our minds. But we will continue going through this because this is a 3-year permit. So even if we kind of get scuttled for this year, for most of the year, we want to continue the process and get it through and find that we can come to some conclusion that's reasonable for us for weed harvesting. Because then we know we're good for another 2 years. And then going forward, we can start this renewal process way in advance.
Roxanne, oh, can I-
Go ahead, Michael.
I understand that they have certain amount of time to respond to whatever we request or whenever we do a request to DEP or NHESP. They can't just, from what I understand, they can't just respond 60 days later or 90 days later or whatever it is. I'm not sure I'm correct, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. And
10 days. It's
What?
10 days from the time the order of
Right.
conditions is
okay,
issued.
so what I'm trying to get to is something else. In other words, that they responded the day before the last Concom, of which I happened to get the last half of in. I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that this engineering company did not apply for certain issues with NHESP until May or whenever it was, that gave NHESP enough time to respond at an unappropriate time for us. In other words, all this paperwork and all this thing should have been in that they would be forced to respond by April or May, and then we could work on it in a more responsible way, not responsible negative, but just responsible to the lake. And I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. And so at this point, it's been a little hectic. So
No, it's water over the bridge. Nothing can be done this
it's
year.
water under the bridge.
Absolutely.
And I haven't had time to go back and actually look at the dates. But what we did have was an additional delay because we had this put together. And we had the map put together. And then Richard Seltzer made a request to the select board to expand the areas of harvesting. That created some delay because then we had to go through and redo the map and they had to redo the calculations. So I don't know how much, I can take a look and see how much time is in there and how much they delayed actually getting this into NHESP. But like you said, it's water under the bridge. And so we've learned a lesson.
Yeah.
And going forward, we may use a different engineering firm for this.
And I just want to add, I mean, we can't forget that we've gone through an unprecedented time in the world with the pandemic. That slowed down everything. We've had to deal with the testing of the milfoil and all of that different, complications. So, once this gets rolling, like Roxanne said, it'll just go more smoothly. So I guess, I don't know, we can't just keep worrying about what happened. Like, it is going to work.
Well, you worry about what happened so you can go into the future more educated. It's very important to know what happened. You have to know why these issues, the second year in a row, last year it was the same thing with the engineering company, because I spoke to Smitty, and he said that the paperwork had not been submitted after the engineering company had told me they were. And sure enough, Smitty was right. And HESP did not get the paperwork. This year, apparently,
I can assure you, Michael, that Michael Canales and I have had this conversation.
No, I'm sure, Roxanne, I'm sure.
The decision has been made. So yes, lesson is learned.
Yes.
Roxanne, do you want to share anything about any other, you had gone to the SBA meeting or anything else pertinent to the group?
I'm not sure I'm prepared this morning. I just had a meeting last night, so I'm a little overwhelmed at the moment. If I think of something, I'll put my hand up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Charlie, do you want to share about anything?
Yeah, the Board of Health doesn't have anything new to report beyond what Jamie already said about the mosquito control program withdrawal having been approved at the town meeting. I'll just say that I did participate in a cyanobacterial educational course put on by the state. I didn't think there was anything really new forthcoming as a result of that. I would say I would like to just broach the subject of 2 possible future ideas that this committee might engage in as time goes along. One would be the idea of asking Dr. Hilary Snook, who's in charge of the EPA's Northeastern Cyanobacterial Surveillance Program, to come to speak with us at some point, or Zoom speak with us. And as I understand it, Dr. Snook actually brings a testing unit, and is willing to do that to a community to teach the community how to become involved in the kind of surveillance testing that he's doing. This is slightly different from the other thrust that we have of preventing the cyanobacteria bloom and what Dr. Cortman's group is doing. This is different from that. But it would allow us to join a New England Northeastern surveillance group that would then we might be able to provide data back and forth from one community to the other. So that's number one. The second topic that I might want to broach in the future and that we could talk about at some point would be the idea of perhaps better understanding the hydrogeology of the calcitic dolomitic marble infrastructure that we have around the town. This is the marble underneath the dirt that makes the Stockbridge Bowl a hard water lake and contributes to some of the eccentricities, perhaps, of the lake. And this is the basis, for example, for the quarries in the different towns around here. These kinds of stone formations allow for very large channels of water to flow subterraneanly in ways that can't be identified and that don't necessarily follow the same watershed pathways that you might expect. So, for example, a channel could start on the downside of a hill that you think is on the opposite side of the divide for the watershed and actually go under the hill and go back down into the bowl. So these kinds of things can transmit large amounts of water fast and in directions that aren't understood, and may contribute ultimately to some of the better understanding of what kinds of things we should allow around the bowl in terms of development and farming and things like that, that could contribute to ultimate later pollution of the lake in terms of cyanobacterial nutrients. And that's about it right now for the Board of Health.
Thank you, Charlie. Any questions?
That's all?
Charlie?
That's it.
Any questions for Charlie? Hearing none. Michael Buffoni's not here. So Gary Kleinerman sent in, because he had to go to the doctor, so I'll just read what he wrote. The docks are in at Bullard Woods and the Island. The boat ramp is in full operation from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week. It looks like we are fully funded for this season. DCR checked for zebra mussel and used DNA testing to ensure we have no invasives. This has been done each year now and will include the DNA testing. The 300-foot markers are in, and I put 3 of them in at the channel with 6 mile an hour on them. Weeds are in full bloom. Water temperature is 75 to 76 as of Sunday. And he spoke to Jane Airedale about the fence that's hanging over by the boat ramp. She will take it down, and let's see. She mentioned that the fence was 7 feet inside her property line and that she might take the chain link down and install a different fence on the property line. This will take 7 feet of the boat ramp space, which we need. The property line situated needs to be looked at closely. If town hall has info, we should be able to get it. Gary Kleinerman. Because I know that was a question, it came up at ComCon, and Patrick White had a question about, there's a fence that hangs over on the boat ramp, and the fishermen, I guess it's called public access, they're mentioning that it's not legal, so there has to be a 5 feet walkway for people. So that's good that this is being done. Any questions on what Gary wrote?
One of the things that I understood is for the harvester, that it can still go over the test areas, it just can't harvest on the test. So it has to get from A to B along the shore, because Gary's putting in the test things. Are there going to be ropes around the, Roxanne, do you know, is it going to be ropes or it's just going to be markers for the test area that Gary's putting in for the herbicide test?
Good question. Is Pat Canella, do you know the answer to that?
I don't, my understanding is that it was just markers and not ropes, but I can't swear to that.
All right.
Yeah, we can check.
You know, in other words, kayakers can still go through and people can go and use it, just that the floor or it can't be disturbed. The actual test underneath cannot be disturbed in any way. That's the way I understood it when SBA first applied for this herbicide test. It didn't apply when DEP and SBA agreed to these test areas.
Right. I mean, and I've always wondered about this because I've always been concerned. They say we have to avoid the test areas, but it's never been actually discussed in terms of going over it without harvesting. So, you know, I want to touch base with NHESP and DEP on that, just to confirm it, because we don't want to be in violation in any way, shape, or form. And Jamie,
Yes.
since Mike is not here, I do have his email with his report about their last harvesting episode. So I can read that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so he's Mark Viola and Mike Buffoni went out with Chuck Corer on Chuck Corer's boat and collected data and water samples. Let me see, this is June 11th, so it's probably June 10th. They took roughly 60 samples, but everyone should know and appreciate the fact that Chuck Corer has basically offered to take them out whenever they're doing testing, which alleviates us having to use Mark Viola's private boat, which is kind of nice. So that gives us a lot more leeway because Mark Viola's boat is an inboard and there are issues in terms of the cold weather. They don't necessarily drain all the water out. So that was an issue for Mark at certain points in time. But anyway, so we really appreciate this offer from Chuck Corer. And the Lake and Stream data went into Chris Main. And I think we just received the analysis, the test results back. So I'll be sending that out to everybody as soon as I can locate that in my email. And one other thing I wanted to mention was Pat Kennelly was kind enough to share the Solitude aquatic vegetation survey that was done in 2018, which also I just got yesterday, and then I had a meeting last night. So I'll be sending that out via email to everybody. And is another piece of data that can be incorporated into the lake management plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Michael's report that Roxanne read? Okay, great.
There are a lot of Michaels. Michael Canales?
Right.
Are you talking about?
No.
Which, or Mike Buffoni? Mike Buffoni,
Tony's
right,
report.
right.
John, would you like to share anything from sewer and water? Anything new? I don't know if you've had a meeting.
Yeah, we have not had a meeting regarding the Lake Drive septic situation. But we've had numerous emails going back and forth, and I don't know if Mike Buffoni or Jim Willits are online. But the comments that I've heard from Jim Willits is that he's prepared to do on-site inspections to help with the various people who are currently thinking of having their sewer hooked up. And of course, Mike Buffoni is very much involved in this. And so I don't know that we have anything new. I haven't heard from Jim Willits as to whether he's actually gone and spoken with people. I've seen emails from Beth, and I know that they're actively canvassing other residents of that area. And we'd be very interested in, I say we, the sewer water, would be very interested in knowing who these people are. And I've included in these emails not only Mike, but Tony as well, Tony Campetti, to get him on board with this. And of course, he is on board, but we haven't had a meeting, so I don't know for sure.
Okay, well, thank you for the updates. Any questions for John? Hearing none. Michael Nathan, would you like to give any updates on dredging or SBA?
Well, on the SBA, I don't have anything that, we did, I think Roxanne and Richard and myself and Solitude went out last week to do a visual test and a GPS test on where the milfoil was. Pat Kennelly, maybe she can chime in on this. I don't think, did we get any results back from Solitude? I'm not sure, so you have to let me know if you know we did or didn't, because I didn't hear anything. Roxanne, did you want to say anything about that outing before I go? Right.
Well, basically, we went out, they took GPS data points around the lake, and the answer as of yesterday was no. They were going to plot those data points, Solitude was, for the SBA onto a map. And that was going to be a consideration for, potentially moving one of the test areas. The beach test area will stay in place. That doesn't change. The one that, though, was north of the island on the west side of the lake will probably be moving over to the east side of the lake in the vicinity of Mackinac Shores,
I thought, Roxanne, can you hear us?
Yeah.
I thought, I have to redo it. I thought the beach one was going to be moved because I thought there was comment to saying that they'll be happy to hear that it might be moved, but I'm not positive of what Solitude ultimately GPS'd. So I think we're going to have to wait and see what they came up with.
Right. Well, the conversation yesterday with Pat Kennelly and Patty Klein and Richard Seltzer and I, basically Richard indicated that the likelihood is that it's going to move over into Mackinac Shores, Mackinac Terrace, that area of the lake. But where that is specifically going to be is, not defined yet, because they're still waiting for the GPS data points to be mapped, and then they have to have a discussion with DEP.
Right. So the next topic is the dredging, and we received a new guesstimation from GZA on dredging, but I think we have a meeting with GZA, Roxanne and Greg and myself and GZA at 2:00 this afternoon, a Zoom meeting, which we'll be able to discuss the quotes and how much of the lake area they thought was part of this quote. It was an excessively high quote, but we'll know better and then report at the next meeting what we came up with. It's better than to do it now because we really don't know enough. But after 2:00, hopefully we'll know a little more of what's going on with the cost situation. Roxanne,
Yeah,
is that pretty much it on
yeah, that's
dredging?
accurate.
I
Yeah.
refer to you because you're part of the group. You're part of the three of us. With
Right,
Greg.
yeah, I received the Zoom invitation yesterday. It didn't have a date or time. So this morning I let them know. It's always good to like,
No, I asked them and I said there's no time. They responded with an apology, 2:00 today.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What Michael said is absolutely what's happening, and I don't think we do know enough at this point, and we will hopefully get that straightened out at 2 this afternoon.
Right.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael Nathan? Hearing none. So conservation, Roxanne gave the latest information about the weed harvesting and the process. We spent most of our time on. Nothing, and we meet in a couple of weeks. Let's see, anyone else? And Jim,
Other thing,
oh, go ahead, Roxanne.
yeah, might want to mention that in the Conservation Commission, you requested that Tom Coote come in and do an aquatic vegetation survey.
Oh, right, we did, so we had requested that he would be able to do an aquatic Tom Coote to do maybe in July, August. We gave funding to, an overall study of the lake, of all the plants. And, I don't know when his report would be done, but hopefully by the end of summer.
Tell you, Jamie, when I talked to Tom, because I took some samples down from that, going out with Solitude. And basically, Tom said that he was free the 2nd and 3rd week of July. And that was the optimal time to do that survey.
Right.
So I'm anticipating he'll schedule it in that time frame because that's what he believes is the best time to do it.
Exactly, but I would think his report wouldn't be ready till August, maybe, or
Yep.
September.
Yeah, beginning of August. He's pretty quick on the turnaround
Okay.
based on last year.
So that would be helpful for all of us, at least to know what kind of plants and where they are and the nature of them. Let's see, I think that was it. There isn't anything else. Oh, someone had wanted to pull lily pads, but we couldn't make a determination because it's, hasn't happened before and the process of that. Because it's a state, the lake is owned by the state really. So pulling plants, do you put an NOI? Or NOI, and I guess that was it. Anyone else? Did everyone talk that's here?
Can I make a comment about this meeting and the Zoom? I feel like you're almost at a better advantage being on the Zoom because you can see who else is on it. Like Roxanne could call Pat.
Yes.
That Pat Kennelly is on this thing is fantastic, but I would have had no clue sitting here who's at this meeting. So I'm just wondering if there was a way that we could see if who else is at the meeting.
Steve would probably be the one to.
That's what I'm sort of addressing it to Steve and to the public television. But Roxanne and everybody who's watching it on Zoom can see everybody, but we only see ourselves, the four of us. And so it's just a thought.
And
Michael?
Yeah.
just to fill you in here, typically there's a co-host, which in this case is Jamie. And what we did last night in our select board meeting is Michael Canales is our co-host, and he has his laptop with him. And he joins with his laptop without video and without audio. So
Oh,
there's
so
no
we can
feedback.
see.
And so then basically the co-host can then announce who is there. And that was asked last night, I think by Chuck. And
Right.
so he listed out, everyone that was present, but he monitors whether or not someone has their hand raised or has a question and wants to speak.
And so
Or
this
has entered a question in the chat.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think this is growing pains, is my understanding, is that we're in this process of transition. So the Zoom piece is available for a little bit longer, and then it'll all come back into town hall. But it was a way as a transition.
Right, the hybrid has now been approved at the state level through the end of this calendar year. So
Okay.
we can do hybrid meetings, for this period of time. And then after that, the Mass General Law, CMR, kicks in terms of remote participation, the existing law.
Okay.
Which happens to be that you have to have a quorum present in person. And for people to participate remotely, normally, they have to have a legitimate reason, whether it's health, they're on vacation and it's an important meeting and they still want to come into the meeting, but they have to have prior approval by the chair. But that's typically how it works. But we have dispensation for right now through the end of the year to do these hybrids.
Thank you, Roxanne. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? Okay. Would you like to make an emotion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.